My name is Luna. I'm 34 years old and live in a small town about an hour's drive from Boston. To most people, I have a stable job in finance, live alone in a well-approved apartment, own a car, have a savings account, and rely on no one. But to my family, none of that is worth a dime. Because I'm not married. I'd grown used to being seen as the one outside the frame. Ever since I was young, all the attention has gone to my sister. Camilla, the one always called the pride of the family. She got married at 25, with a wedding held at a resort in Vermont that my parents gladly went into debt to pay for. Before turning 30, Camilla had given birth to twin boys, chubby and adored by the entire extended family. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas, my mom would enthusiastically print cards with photos of Camilla and the kids and plaster them around the house, as if that were the only image of a perfect family. And me? I was the one who was over 30 and still hadn't settled down. My mom said it like I was a washing machine that refused to start. She never missed a chance to remind me at the dinner table, "Una, aren't you going to give me grandbabies before I go upstairs?" Upstairs? She meant the cemetery. I sat frozen, offering a half smile, while my dad sipped his wine like he hadn't heard a thing. Every time, I wanted to answer, "Mom, I manage the finances of a multi-million-dollar company. I can buy a condo without a mortgage. I pay for my own health insurance and invest in my retirement fund. Why have you never once asked if I'm happy?" But I never said it, because I knew happiness in their eyes had only one definition: a man by your side and kids running around your feet. Camilla didn't have to prove her worth. As long as she followed the formula, marriage, children, she was celebrated like a heroine. I sat through countless family dinners where every conversation revolved around her. Camilla just got selected as PTA vice chair. Camilla's pumpkin pie tastes just like the bakery's. Camilla bought the kids a new set of smart educational toys. And me? I was once featured on the cover of Forbes Women. But my mom only shrugged. Probably just an online magazine, right, dear? I used to wonder if I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was just jealous of a perfect sister. But the feeling of being compared, diminished, and dismissed played on loop like a sorrowful background track. Without a man beside me, I was nothing more than a spare chair in my parents' eyes. I tried to show up at family events, tried to smile when they asked, "Luna, when is it your turn to get married? Or are you afraid no one wants you?" That last one, my mom once said right to my face, at Camilla's birthday party. I just stood there, smiling stiffly, my chest aching. But the irony was, the perfect family they were so proud of was starting to rot from the inside, and they had no idea that the one they always saw as useless would turn out to be the only one who could save them. I still remember that late October afternoon, when the cracks in my family finally began to show. I was in my office, in the middle of a Zoom meeting about Q4 investment strategy, when my phone buzzed nonstop. 12 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Camilla, and 1 text from Dad. "Call home, now. You urgent." I excused myself from the meeting, heart pounding. Something told me this wasn't just another "the boys caught a cold" or "Camilla didn't make PTA president" kind of call. And I was right. When I called back, my mom was crying before I could speak. "Sweetheart, your brother-in-law, he's seeing someone else, a new coworker, from the company he runs." I stayed silent. Camilla was the head accountant for a local supermarket chain. Her husband, Eli, was the operations manager. They'd worked together since they got married. Every perfect family photo online had come from work events. Eli in a suit, Camilla holding their sons, their smiles practically glued on. "She caught them in his car," Mom continued, "in the company parking lot." I asked, "How is Camilla now?" "She's been crying nonstop. The kids keep asking where their dad is. He packed up and disappeared. Not a single word." Camilla didn't call me. I figured she was too hurt to even hold a phone. But I still went. The two-bedroom apartment Camilla had rented was tucked into an old complex in Dorchester. I knocked. After a while, she opened the door. Eyes swollen, hair messy like she'd walked through a storm. "I didn't know where else to go," she murmured, barely meeting my eyes. I said nothing. I stepped inside. And for months after that, I did things I swore I'd never do for anyone but myself. I paid for her entire divorce lawyer bill, almost $8,000. After she switched offices 3 times because she didn't trust anyone. I hired a personal accountant to sort out her taxes and joint accounts with Eli. I prepaid 6 months of rent so she could stay stable with the kids, Noah and Caleb, 6 and 4 years old. I'd never planned to be a mother, but every time I stepped into that apartment, something shifted. I cooked dinner, helped Noah with math, and sang lullabies to Caleb while Camilla sat by the window, staring blankly outside. She never once said thank you, but I didn't ask her to. Part of me still held on to something fragile. That maybe Camilla would realize not everyone had abandoned her. That I, the failed daughter my parents dismissed, was the only one who stayed. But maybe I was too naive. One evening in early February, as I was ordering Noah's birthday cake, Mom called with a rare burst of excitement. Wonderful to share. "Sweetheart, make sure you come home next week. We have something wonderful to share." Yes. Camilla got good news. Better than good. You'll see when you're home. I went home, and for the first time in years, everyone was there. Dad, Mom, Camilla, and the 2 kids. But there was no joy. Just a folder neatly placed on the coffee table. And the way they looked at me felt unfamiliar. "Take a look," Dad said, sliding the folder toward me. I opened it. On the cover, Property Mortgage Agreement, Tellers Union Bank. I flipped through the pages, each word blurring like it was dancing in front of me. "Wait," I said quietly. "Whose name is on this house?" "We already bought it," Mom said proudly. "Camilla needed a home for the kids and—" Big Dad finished the sentence. "And you'll be the one paying off the loan." I looked up. "What did you just say?" Camilla kept her head down. Not a word. But Mom still smiled. "You're single, no burden. You've been saving for years. It's time you helped the family." I was stunned. Memories came flooding back. All the belittling comments, the harsh comparisons, the times I kept silent just to avoid conflict. But this wasn't something I could stay silent about anymore. I clenched my fists and set the folder back on the table. "No," I said clearly. "I've helped Camilla for an entire year. I don't owe anyone anything anymore." No one responded. Just Noah's voice from the next room. "Mom, where's my birthday cake?" And I swallowed hard. Because I had bought that cake. But maybe I wouldn't be bringing it over after all. I don't remember exactly how I left my parents' house. Just the feeling, dry throat, heart racing, and a storm of unanswered questions in my head. Did they really think I'd pay off that mortgage? Not for myself, not for a partner or child of my own, but for Camilla. Someone who never once said thank you. Someone I believed would change, if only she was given help. I sat in my car for almost 30 minutes, staring blankly at the road. My phone rang. It was Mom. I picked up. "Luna," her voice soft like she was speaking to a dear client. "Don't be upset. I know today was a bit sudden, but we're family, sweetheart. We all chip in a little and everything falls into place." I stayed silent. "Camilla's raising 2 kids alone. You're their aunt. You care about them, don't you?" "I do care about them," I replied, my voice calm. "But I can't take on the financial responsibility for a decision you made without me." Mom sighed. "Raised you for over 30 years. Now it's your turn to give back to the family. That's only fair." I laughed, a dry, bitter laugh. You seriously think paying someone else's mortgage is just an You've got nothing to worry about. You're single, unencumbered, making good money. Are a few $100,000 really more important than your own flesh and blood? That's when I hung up. I didn't need to hear another word. 2 days later, Camilla called. I didn't answer. Then the messages came in rapid fire. Luna, I know I should have spoken up that day. But think about it. I'm struggling every day, and all you have to do is transfer some money. I'm not begging. I just hoped you'd show some heart. I read each one, then turned off my phone. But it wasn't over. Saturday night, I had just finished washing my hair when someone knocked on the door. It was Aunt Bonnie, my mom's younger sister, someone I hadn't seen in 2 years. Luna, she said the moment I opened the door, I don't want to interfere, but your mom's been crying all week. She says you've changed. I invited her in, set a cup of tea in front of her. Do you want to hear one side or the whole story? She sat in silence. So I told her. Every expense I covered for Camilla. Every sleepless night spent budgeting so she wouldn't lose her place. Every unanswered message, every silent stare as I stood alone at family dinners. She let out a deep, heavy sigh. I didn't realize. They were asking you to carry even more. I'm sorry, Luna. I didn't cry, but something inside me felt like a knot had finally come undone. The following week, the messages from relatives started pouring in. My cousin in Georgia texted, "Word is you refuse to help your sister buy a house. You really think money matters more than blood?" My uncle from Texas left a 3-minute voicemail, ending with, "Single women often turn out selfish. Don't let this be something you regret one day." I understood what was happening. Mom and Camilla had informed the extended family in whatever version suited them, and once again, I became the name whispered about at wine and pie gatherings. But unlike before, I didn't shrink back. I started blocking numbers, one by one. Anyone who couldn't respect my boundaries had no place in my life. A week later, my mother sent an email. "My dear, your father is very upset. Ever since you stopped coming home, he hasn't been able to sleep. We don't blame you, but if you insist on being stubborn, then consider yourself no longer part of this family." I closed the email and sat in silence for a few minutes. Then I opened my laptop and wrote my response. I've done my part. I helped when Camilla needed it most. But I cannot continue being turned into a financial solution for decisions I was never included in. If that's the reason you choose to disown me, I accept that. I hit send. I thought that was the peak of it, that after all the phone calls, accusatory messages, and the letter I sent back, my family would finally back off, even if only in silence. But I had severely underestimated their persistence. Or, more accurately, their greed masked as family duty. One Tuesday afternoon, I received an envelope from a law office in Cambridge. I assumed it was a notary invitation for an investment agreement, but when I tore it open, I found a thick stack of papers stamped with Notice of Lawsuit, Reimbursement of Child-Rearing Expenses. Plaintiffs, Richard and Evelyn Montgomery, my biological parents. Defendant, Luna Montgomery. That's me. Amount claimed, $312,400. I stood frozen in my living room, holding the paperwork like it was something alien. They were suing me. For being raised in their home? My phone slipped from my hand, battery popping out. I didn't pick it up. I sat on the couch and tried to breathe deeply, but the words kept flashing in my mind. Medical costs, education, food, emotional care. All listed like a credit card statement. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I contacted Miranda Pearson, a civil attorney I had met at a seminar on personal rights. I forwarded her all the documents and set a meeting for the next day. Miranda, in her 50s, was sharp and didn't care for small talk. "Luna, I've reviewed the entire complaint," she said, as we sat in her bright downtown Boston office. Legally speaking, parents cannot demand reimbursement from their children for raising them during childhood. Under Massachusetts law, providing care is both a moral and legal obligation of parenthood. I nodded, still in disbelief. But since they've filed a formal complaint, we have to respond officially. And if they refuse to drop the case, we'll present evidence to dismiss the entire claim. And so I began doing something I never imagined I'd have to do to the people who gave me life. I dug through every bank statement, wire transfer, and financial records since I turned 18. I found the receipt for $6,250 I sent Camilla to cover Noah's preschool tuition. An email confirming the $5,800 I paid her divorce attorney. Even bank statements showing 3 separate transfers to my mother's account, each ranging from $500 to $1,200, when she complained about shortfalls after early retirement. I also had a text from Dad, sent back in 2017. It read, "Luna, can you help with my car insurance this month? I promise I'll pay you back, but it might take a bit." He never paid me back. Not a cent. 3 weeks later, the first hearing was held at Suffolk County Court. I arrived with Miranda, dressed professionally, with every piece of documentation in hand. On the plaintiff's side, my parents sat across from me. Camilla was there too, along with 2 aunts who'd never once said my name with kindness. The judge, a slim man with dark skin and neatly combed gray hair, had eyes like X-rays. From the first question, he went straight to the heart of it. "Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery, is it true you are suing your biological daughter for over $300,000 based on expenses incurred while raising her to age 18? "Yes, Your Honor," my father replied solemnly. "She has a high income and lives comfortably, but she doesn't know how to honor her parents. We're simply asking for a small part of what we sacrificed." Miranda remained composed as she addressed the judge. "Your Honor, I have evidence that my client has been financially independent since the age of 18, has received no support past that point, and has, in fact, provided monetary assistance to both plaintiffs and her sister on multiple occasions. We submitted every document, statements, transfers, receipts, emails." The judge flipped through each page. His face didn't change much, but I noticed how his gaze toward my parents grew colder. "Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery," he said after nearly an hour of review, "these records show that not only did you not support your daughter into adulthood, but you received significant funds from her. And under the law, there is no legal basis to demand reimbursement from an adult child. I find this lawsuit both unreasonable and emotionally coercive." Then he turned to me. "Ms. Montgomery, do you wish to file a countersuit?" I shook my head. "I just want to live in peace." He looked at me, then gave his ruling. "This court hereby dismisses the case. Proceedings are closed." As I left the courthouse, Miranda gently tapped my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Luna. You don't owe anyone anything, except yourself." I stepped outside into the crisp early spring air of Boston. The breeze brushed against my cheek, as if reminding me, some battles aren't about winning, but about ending the cycle. I officially received the keys to my house on a clear, quiet morning in May. A small 3-bedroom home at the end of a peaceful street in Brookline, about a 20-minute drive from downtown Boston. Not a mansion, no sprawling yard, but it was mine. A home I had spent nearly 10 years saving for. Every brick, every window pane, every doorknob was the result of late nights, high-stress audits, and every penny I had guarded through my youth. No one celebrated. No flowers, no welcome home sign like in the movies. But I wasn't sad. I stood in the empty living room, sunlight pouring through the big window, then sat down on the wooden floor. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time in all 34 years, I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to live my life the way I chose. The first few weeks passed like a quiet dream. Each evening after work, I repainted walls, picked out curtains, and installed ceiling lights with my own hands. On weekends, I planted greenery and tilled the backyard soil. I named the stray cat that kept showing up Jasper. a soft gray fluff ball who curled up by my feet every night. I didn't get any calls from Mom, Dad, or Camilla after the lawsuit was dismissed. Maybe they were busy explaining their failure to the relatives. Maybe they were just embarrassed. But I expected nothing. Silence, to me now, was the gentlest form of forgiveness they were capable of offering. Only two people kept coming. My grandparents, Arthur and Margaret. Both in their 70s, they still drove up from Salem to Brookline every other week. The first time they visited, Grandpa stepped out of their old car with a small lavender plant in a porcelain pot. "Keep this near the kitchen window," he said with a wink. "Every morning you wake up, it'll help you breathe a little easier. And don't forget to water it." Lavender holds grudges. Grandma brought a box of homemade apple pie, still fragrant like the summers I spent at their house as a child. She didn't say much, just walked slowly around my home, occasionally touching a corner of the wall and smiling. "This house suits you," she said. "Not big, not flashy, but full of light and warmth, just like you." I didn't reply. I just hugged her tightly. That night, the three of us sat outside in the backyard, sipping peppermint tea and listening to the crickets. Jasper curled up in my lap. Grandpa nodded slowly after I briefly shared the story of the lawsuit. "I know your parents were wrong," he said without hesitation. "But the older I get, the more I realize some people don't know they're wrong and don't want to. They just get angry when you stop letting them take advantage." "I don't want to stay angry at them forever," I said honestly. "But I can't keep paying for other people's choices." "And you don't have to," Grandma added, placing her hand over mine. "You're not alone. Family isn't always about shared blood. It's about where you're allowed to be yourself, without explanation." I looked at them, my heart softening. They had never asked me to be more like Camilla, never said I was broken for living on my own. Throughout a journey I thought I had walked alone. They had quietly been there all along. 3 months after getting the house, life slowly found its rhythm. I hung the first painting I had ever done on the dining room wall. A sunrise viewed from the kitchen window of my old Cambridge apartment. I began trying new recipes I once felt too intimidated to cook, grew my first patch of tomatoes in the backyard, and picked up books I had left unfinished years ago. There were no surprise knocks on the door, no one asking, "When are you getting married?" or "Does Camilla need help?" I lived at my own pace, and somehow, for the first time, it felt beautiful. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe my parents will find new ways to impose or manipulate. Maybe they'll show up. But I've learned how to build boundaries, and this time, no one crosses them without kindness in hand. I had just finished watering the tomato patch when my phone dinged with a new email. It was from Mom. I opened it, a strange feeling creeping up my spine like I already knew something wasn't right. "Dear Luna, we know you're living alone in your new house and have extra space. Camilla and the kids are struggling. We think it would be best if you invited them to live with you. You could set up a room for the boys, and Camilla can help with chores and cooking. Family's about supporting each other, especially when one of us is more fortunate. We trust you'll make the right decision. My Mom and Dad." I read it over and over. Every word chilling. No apology, no mention of the lawsuit, not a single line acknowledging what they did was wrong. Just a new demand, again, in the name of family. I walked into the kitchen, opened my laptop, and logged into Gmail. My fingers typed slowly but firmly. "Mom and Dad, this house was purchased solely with my savings over many years. No one in the family contributed. I will not invite anyone to live here, especially someone who stood by you when you dragged me to court over baseless claims. If I continue receiving coercive requests or pressure in any form, I will involve legal counsel and appropriate authorities. Do not contact me again. Luna." I read it one last time, then hit send. I thought that would be the end of it, but just 2 days later, I received a handwritten letter. Along with a crayon drawing, a house with 3 smiling people. Across the top, it said, "Auntie Luna's house." I recognized Noah's handwriting. I held the paper, a tight discomfort rising in my chest, not because I was angry at the child, but because I knew the adults behind it were using a child's innocence as an emotional weapon. The accompanying letter was written in my mother's hand. Noah and Caleb miss you dearly. They're so excited about living with Auntie Luna, the only one they still call family. At the bottom, in red ink, she had added, "Could you offer just a little something for the future of two innocent children?" I tore the letter in half, folded the drawing gently, and placed it in a drawer. I couldn't bring myself to throw away a child's sincerity, but I also wouldn't let it be used to manipulate me. That night, I called my grandparents. Grandma Margaret picked up. "Luna, is everything all right?" she asked. I told her everything, my voice steady like I was reading a report. When I finished, there was a pause on the other end, then she let out a soft sigh. "I once thought that after the lawsuit they'd stop treating you like a walking wallet, but it seems they don't need forgiveness, they just need you to keep sacrificing." "I'm exhausted, Grandma," I said. "I've tried to be kind, tried to maintain distance while still holding compassion, but it never seems to be enough." "You're not wrong, and you don't need to prove that again," she said gently. "You've spent enough of your life living for others. It's time to live for yourself." We ended the call in silence, but this time it was a warm kind of silence, like a small golden lamp glowing through a window on a winter night. Quiet, but comforting. The next week, I installed a security camera at the front door, set an email filter to move all messages from my parents and Camellia into a separate folder, with no notifications. I also met with Miranda again, to make sure that if the emotional manipulation or coercion continued, I had the legal grounds to request a restraining order. I never imagined I'd have to go this far, with the people who gave me life. But then again, I never imagined they would take me to court. And when a boundary is pushed to its breaking point, self-protection is no longer a choice. It's the only thing that matters. Summer arrived faster than I expected. Sunlight filtered through every window, and the lavender Grandpa had brought was blooming in soft purple. Jasper, the cat I adopted in spring, had fully claimed the back porch as his territory, basking in the sun like a retired gentleman. I received no more emails or letters from my parents. No missed calls, no surprise visits from relatives. That silence at first made me nervous, like waiting for the second storm. But by the third week, when nothing happened, I began to believe, maybe, just maybe, the storm had passed. One Saturday afternoon, my grandparents visited again. Grandma brought a basket of homemade multigrain bread, and Grandpa, true to tradition, arrived with another potted plant, this time carnations. "Place it on the front step," he said, "so anyone passing by knows you're loved." We sat on the porch like always, sipping chamomile tea and watching Jasper chase dry leaves. Halfway through, Grandma finally spoke. "Camilla's moved back in with your parents. They're renting out the house they bought. The rental income goes toward covering the mortgage." I didn't react right away. "Did they say anything else?" I asked after a moment. "Still telling people you're ungrateful. But these days, no one's really listening anymore." I chuckled softly. "Not bitter. Just a reflex when people finally stop talking about things they never understood." "Last week, Aunt Bonnie told your mom straight to her face, if I were Luna, I'd cut ties too," Grandpa added calmly. "Aunt Bonnie said everyone should just leave you alone." I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. I didn't need the whole family to take my side. I just needed them not to enable the harm. I couldn't even remember the last time I thought about Camilla. Not because I tried to forget, but because there was nothing left to hold on to. Everything I had once given, hoped for, and waited from her had closed, like a book with its final chapter written. I still went to work every day, still came home before dark, made simple dinners, played with Jasper, and read a little before bed. On weekends, I planted more vegetables in my small garden and learned to bake pastries. I wasn't trying to live better, to prove something. I was just living the way I wanted to. Sometimes, I still received messages from distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years. One cousin who had once criticized me sent a card. "I'm sorry for not understanding you. Now I do." I didn't reply, but I kept the card. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't need an answer. As autumn arrived, I hung a few more of my own paintings along the hallway walls. Every time I walked past them, I felt a sense of ease. Those once blank spaces now bore my own mark. I still don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day my parents will try to come back. Maybe Camilla will write a long letter. Maybe they'll try to explain or even apologize? Or maybe they never will. But I'm no longer waiting. Some things can't be fixed. Some people won't change. And some wounds don't need stitching. They just need time to heal in their own way. That evening, I sat on the porch with Jasper in my lap. The moon hung low. A gentle breeze brushed my shoulders. I could hear crickets in the distance, the scent of lavender drifting in the air. I quietly said to myself, "The peace, in the end, is when no one else holds the reins to your life." Luna's story is not just a journey of reclaiming control. It's a powerful reminder that not all blood ties come with true love. Sometimes, to live in peace, we must draw firm boundaries, even with the ones closest to us. In a world that often expects women to sacrifice and endure, Luna chose a different path, living truthfully, defending her worth, and finding joy in the quiet life she built on her own terms. What do you think of Luna's decision? If you were in her place, how would you respond? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional and meaningful family stories.